We are going to rejoice and be glad in it. If this is your first time coming, not by accident that you are here, God has a message that He wants to speak to you about, and He wants to start off from reaching into your spirit from the inside. He's building you from the inside out, cleaning you out from the inside out. My name is Chandawana. I am coming here to greet you with Jesus on this morning. And the message is coming with you. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do this a little different than usually, so bear with me. Think about a pressure cooker. The concept of going through chaos is a powerful theme throughout the Bible. Scripture often frames chaos, whether it's physical, it can be emotional or spiritual, not as a sign of failure, but as the new material God uses for a new creation. This is a profound way to frame it. The pressure cooker isn't just a place of heat, it is a controlled environment designed to accelerate a transformation that wouldn't happen at room temperature. Now, when we take it to the Bible, chaos is rarely the end of the story, even though we feel like it is. We want to throw in the towel, but it usually is the preface. And so here's the breakdown of how Scripture views the pressure cooker of your life. The general pattern is chaos as raw material. The Bible opens with tohu wa bohu, which means without form and void. Before there was light, there was dark. There was watery chaos. The lesson in all that is that God doesn't wait for things to be neat. Man does, but God waits, but He starts working. He does. Let me say it again. God doesn't wait for things to be neat before He starts working. He prefers to step into the middle of the mess and speak order into it. Let me say it again. God doesn't wait for things to be neat before He starts working. He prefers to step into the middle of the mess and speak order into it. Genesis 1 verse 2 says the earth was without form, it was without void, and it was dark, and was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. The pattern of creation is that growth in chaos starts at the very beginning. The formless and the empty state of the world has the canvas for life. Genesis 1 verse 2, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. God's Spirit, the lesson in that is that God's Spirit is most active when things are formless. People like to get involved when things are being made, but God is most active when things are formless. They can't, because you can't see what God sees. Chaos is the prerequisite of a new word to be spoken into your life. And the refining process is that the Bible frequently uses the metaphor of a refiner's fire. Fire is chaotic. It is destructive, yet it is the only way to separate gold from dross. In James chapter 1, verses 2 through 4, it says, "Count it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you meet trials of all kinds, when things are whacked out. If you know the testing of your faith produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, and you will not lack anything." Remember Romans 5, verses 3 and 4. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings. No, because we know that suffering is going to produce some endurance, and endurance is going to produce some character, and character is going to give us hope. And the maturity that wouldn't grow in comfort. You find your strength and your weakness when our personal lives feel chaotic, when our personal lives feel out of control. We can shift our focus because scripture shifts the focus from our ability to manage the mess to God's power within it. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9 says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." What do you mean by that? The lesson in that is that growth happens when our order fails, forcing us that now we got to rely on the higher strength. When you find yourself in the deep water, in Hebrew thought, the deep or the sea represents chaos and the unknown. Isaiah 43, verse 2 says, "When you pass through the waters, it will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through, you shall not be, the flames shall consume you." You know, people, "Oh, you look so good, you must have a good life." No, that's because the Lord was with me. Lesson is, when you are not promised escape from the chaos, but given a transformation. So they say, "Oh, you look so good, you had a good life." The response in the New Testament, Jesus often met his disciples of literal storms on the Sea of Galilee. He didn't just calm the storm, he used the chaos to reveal his identity to them in a way they never would have seen from the safety of the shore. Yes, let's look at a few key leaders in the Bible. In the biblical narrative, leadership is rarely forced in times of peace. Instead of the most influential figures often found their voice and their purpose precisely when the social or the political fabric of our world was tearing apart. Joseph, he went from the pit to the palace. Joseph's life was a series of chaotic events. Betrayed by the family, human trafficking, false imprisonment, His growth happened in the in between spaces of chaos. In the upheaval of all of that, total displacement from his culture and family in a foreign, often hostile Egyptian political system. The growth in all of that is that he was able to transition from a favored, perhaps naive teenager into a master administrator and strategist. The key scripture was found in Genesis 50, verse 20. "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant for good to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today." The lesson in all of that is that what he's saying is that chaos can be the training ground for a level of responsibility you couldn't handle in a stable environment. Then we can go to Esther, the crisis of identity and survival. Because Esther lived during a time of immense social mess for her people under the Persian Empire. The chaos here was a literal decree of genocide. The growth, she moved from a passive participant to an advocate for her people. In scripture of Esther chapter 4, verse back on. Okay, I messed up, so let me just go back to where I was before. Sorry about that. The internet is just going up and down and up and down and up and down. Anyway, let me put on my music again. I'm gonna just continue on where I was. We were talking about Nehemiah. Yep, it's still on. Okay. We were talking about Nehemiah and staying on the wall. All that mess that was going on with him. So let's see where we did Joseph, I did Esther. Here we go. Nehemiah was rebuilding amidst all the opposition. Nehemiah's leadership emerged from the wreckage of a destroyed city called Jerusalem and the social depression of a returned remnant. The upheaval with this is that the walls of Jerusalem were in ruin and the surrounding nations were politically and militarily hostile in the rebuilding efforts. The growth in this was that Nehemiah developed a unique blend of spiritual devotion and practice. He did crisis management, which is something that we should be doing a lot of spiritual crisis management throughout our day. He organizing a massive labor force while under constant threat of attack. The key scripture was Nehemiah 6, verse 3. He says, I'm doing a great work and I cannot come down. That's the empowerment scripture right there. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? So when people are messing with you, do like Nehemiah. I'm doing a great work and I cannot stop what I'm doing. So why should I stop what I'm doing to detour to come to you? The lesson in all of this is that growth in chaos requires a single-minded focus. Nehemiah learned to build with one hand and hold a sword with the other hand. I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. Why should I stop what I'm doing and leave my stuff and come down to you? I am doing a great work with God's house of salvation. Why should I stop what I'm doing, tear up my church, and come over to your church? That's not what God is telling me. I am doing a great work. God is doing something great in you. And when God is doing a great work in you, the antagonists always want to interrupt. And they don't even have anything going. So stay on the wall. Stay on the wall and pay attention to the pressure cooker. Because the concept of growing through chaos is powerful and it's throughout the word. Stay on the wall. Stay on the wall. The pressure cooker. Well, that's the end of the message. The windows of heaven have opened. I hope you have enjoyed the view. I know I have. My spirit feels good from the inside right now. I'm feeling pretty good right now. And the ancestors have spoken. My God has spoken because I know they know about the pressure cooker and everything. So anyway, take this message and receive it from them and from God, the ancestors, and then share it with other people. Plant the seed. If they don't want it, like Jesus said, shake the dust and keep it moving. We all have our times when we don't want to hear from the word. Just leave it alone and let God do the water. That's his business, not ours. May love, joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, mercy, forgiveness, and self-control be yours. And keep hope alive. Hold your head up. Stand up and let people not ride your back today. May you have redemption, restitution, resolution, reconciliation, and restoration. And until next time, by God's grace.